We've got a code 187.
Officers on the scene.
Some of my content has mention of extreme violence, sexual assault, and or other triggering content. Discretion is advised. Hello, welcome to Code 187. I am Sarah, and I am your true crime best friend. And this is Drew.
Hello.
And today we have a big case.
And I know nothing about this one.
Yeah.
She hasn't told me it. I have no clue any of the details.
Mm-hmm. And this one is a famous one, but I didn't know a lot about it.
Okay.
So,
well, if you don't know about it, I probably don't either.
So today we are doing the Amityville Horror.
Well, I've heard of it. I've heard of a movie.
Right. All I know is Ryan Reynolds. That's all I care about.
I didn't even know there was a remake with Ryan Reynolds. So yeah, I don't even know that much.
Okay, so the Amityville Horror was a real thing. And the movie came out based on the events following the Amityville Horror. We'll get into it because it's a whole thing. But today that's what we are doing, and so let's get into it. Ready?
All right. Yep, I'm curious now.
Okay, so 30 miles outside of New York City is a small town called Amityville. Amityville is described like this. It has a hot summer and a mild winter climate. With a beach in close proximity, you'll find inspiration to go for walks, swims, or even picnics every day. The presence of parks and green space will enable you to spend time in the outdoors.
So they're trying to make it sound perfect. They're like, yeah, it's not going to be too cold this winter, and you got a beach, but you got parks, like you got everything.
Yep, it sounds very idyllic. But now it's known for a lot darker things.
They should change their name.
Or their description.
Yeah, or their description.
Also known for murder.
Right.
All right, so the events started on November 13th, 1974. So we're in the 70s. At around 6:30 p.m., a man entered Henry's bar in Amityville frantic. He was freaking out. "Help me, my father and my mother have been shot." This man and a few others headed towards the crime scene. You know, like you do.
Yeah, I already have questions. Like he headed into a bar, not a police station.
Mm-hmm.
So that's already, weird decision. But I mean, who knows when something like that happens? I guess you go to the nearest place, or who knows what you do in that situation. But that wouldn't have been my first thought, was the bar.
Mm-hmm.
But then second, I'm already thinking, great. So any evidence is going to be, possibly not usable.
Right.
Inadmissible, I guess would be what I was going to say.
Yeah, and all I could think about too was like, they've been shot, and here goes all the people in this bar,
right?
Following behind this guy who they don't know to the crime scene.
Yeah,
it's not.
I
smart.
mean, if you've ever been around a situation like that, it's gonna probably be a trail of a few people being like, "Oh, hey, let's see what happened."
Right.
It's like the people who drive by and look at a car accident.
Yep. So someone called 911 who quickly showed up to investigate. When they got there, they found not only the parents, but also 4 siblings dead in the home.
Jeez.
All of the victims had been shot with a .35 caliber. The parents had been shot twice, while the children had been all killed with a single shot. Physical evidence suggests that the mother, Lutz Defeo, and one of her daughters were awake at the time of their deaths. All the victims were found lying face down in their bed. The time of death was approximately 3 o'clock that morning.
So all of them laying face down, that sounds to me like that was probably done to them, that they were put face down, because, I mean, there's a chance, I guess, that 6 people are sleeping face down, but it's pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, so also, like, because when I thought of this, I was like, oh, they were shot at 3 o'clock in the morning, asleep in their beds. But, like, one of them shot.
Yeah, you would think the other ones would hear it.
Right, unless there was a silencer, which I don't know.
Or like, I guess a big house maybe, but yeah.
It's not that big.
Well, there goes that theory.
Right. So also when you're thinking of this, you're thinking, okay, they were killed in 3 o'clock in the morning. This guy's come in at 6:30 p.m.
So yeah, that's
almost a whole day.
Yeah.
So what's going on with that?
Right, and so that was the 5th child. Right. Okay.
Right.
So.
Or yeah.
The 4 brothers and sisters who were shot, and then the mother and father, and then the 5th child comes home after all this.
Yep.
Okay.
So the Defeo family bought and moved into 112 Ocean Avenue in 1965. They were a normal family consisting of Ronald Defeo Sr., Louise Defeo, who they were both 43, and 5 children, Ronald Jr., who was the surviving, he was 23, Dawn, who was 18, Allison, who was 13, Mark, who was 12, and John, who was 9. So what happened here and why? Police automatically looked at the surviving son, Ronald, the one that ran into the bar. After some questioning the next day, Ronald admitted to the crime. He said, once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast. He then took a bath, redressed, got out of his blood-stained clothes, and went to work. You know, as one does.
Okay.
So we have the surviving son saying, all right, I did this.
So this is different from what you normally do already, because it doesn't sound like a whole lot of mystery here so far. It just sounds like open and shut.
All right. But we're going to get to the mystery, because there's a lot of mystery, actually.
Okay.
The motive for the crime was unclear. Many people have debated why all this happened, and it seems that Ronald Jr. just snapped. He was a user of heroin and LSD. He had antisocial personality disorder, so all of that probably didn't help the situation.
What? So help me out here on the antisocial personality disorder. I'm not really all that familiar with that one.
I'm not as much either, but
is it just like a? I'm trying to think of another term for it, but basically somebody who just is like a homebody.
Yeah, like kind of a recluse type of thing. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, but
yeah. So if anybody wants to comment on this and correct us on that, feel free.
Yes.
I don't know a ton about that one.
Right.
We're not psychologists.
Yeah, and I'm not. That one doesn't show up as much, I feel like. So
yeah, I don't hear that one as much. That's kind of why I was like, huh. And then, of course, you WebMD yourself and you go, maybe I'm that.
Right. So while you're telling us about anti-personality disorder, also subscribe.
Right, yeah.
Subscribe to the podcast.
Good plug.
Give us a rating. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on social media because I post more stuff.
And also check out the podcast.
Yes, check out the podcast. There's tons more on there. So anti-personal or antisocial personality disorder, we don't know what it is.
Right.
But subscribe and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us.
Yeah. So Ronald changed his story so many times. First saying it was a mob hit, that he didn't do it, but he knew that it was a mob hit. Then he later even blamed it on one of the victims, his own sister, Dawn, saying that she killed all of the family and he killed her to, I get revenge or whatever.
And then laid her face down like the rest of the family.
Yeah. It made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But there was no evidence other than he acted completely alone in this crime. But he also later claimed he was possessed. That comes back a lot.
I'm sure LSD will do that to you. I mean,
he was possessed by LSD.
LSD and heroin, that's what you were possessed by.
You're right. So on November 21st, 1975, Defeo was found guilty on 6 counts of second-degree murder. On December 4th, 1975, he was given 6 sentences of 25 to life. He tried to get parole many times but was denied, and he died on March 12th, 2021.
Oh, wow. So last year.
Yep, and he was 69 at the time.
Wow, okay.
All right, case closed.
Yeah, everything seems pretty clean, open and shut.
Open and shut, we got that. There's this murder. They got justice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Everybody is everybody's not happy, but everybody knows what happened now.
Right. So the story doesn't end there, though.
Okay.
We have some weirdness that happens after the fact.
That's good, because this was going to be a short episode.
Right, okay. 10 minutes later. So what are your take on ghosts and demons?
Sometimes I have a hard time believing it, and sometimes I can. It depends. You and I have watched a lot of ghost shows together. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'll see something that you'll be like, that was probably the wind, or somebody probably faked that video, or somebody probably made it up with like a string or something. Mm-hmm. And then there's some that you're just like, yeah, I mean, that really could be a ghost. And I've felt, at times there's been a weird feeling where you're kind of like, that doesn't feel normal. Like something could be off here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think anybody who walks into a graveyard goes, I feel different here.
Yeah, I don't like this.
Yeah, like this is not comfortable for me. If it's comfortable for you, then I guess to each their own, but that worries me a little bit. But yeah, it seems like they're I don't not believe it. That's a double negative, but yeah. I'm not against the idea of that being a thing, but I also am not 100% a believer.
Right. I'm kind of at the same spot. Like, there's not been anything ever that's happened to me where I'm like, yes, that was absolutely a ghost, right. Or a spirit or a demon or whatever. It's interesting to me. I like watching the shows on it, and
we did have that, that time that I saw what I thought was a black cat in the house.
Right.
And there was no black cat. And then our roommate saw a black cat, mm-hmm. and was like, nope. And then we hadn't talked to each other. We both thought we had seen a black cat. So, I mean, ghost cat in our house, maybe. Maybe.
We've also talked about houses and places holding energy.
Yeah, that's very true. Our the first house we lived in, we just felt like it had a very negative energy, and the people who we bought it from had told us they had kind of some pretty sad circumstances going on in their life, and we just felt a bad energy there the whole time we were there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's definitely something we both felt before. Right.
So if you think that houses hold energy, how do you feel murder houses would be?
Horrible. I don't even know if I'd be able to sleep in there. It would feel heavy, I think.
I think your mind would play tricks on you some too.
Yeah, you would start to kind of make up things even if they weren't real. And then even if they are real, you would be amplified because you're already anxious. I mean, I wouldn't go in the attic ever of that house. I wouldn't sleep with the lights off in that house. I don't think it's for me.
Right, but we also don't know. I mean, a lot of people die in houses, and mm-hmm. A lot of bad things happen in houses, and we just kind of don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what's happened in a house before you got there, usually. I mean, mm-hmm. maybe you'll know the last resident, but other than that, you usually don't know.
Yep. And this house was pretty much no different. Like, everybody pretty much knew what happened.
They knew that house. That was the house that was like, people drove by and said, that's where it happened.
Yep. And 13 months later, the Lutz family purchased the home at a drastically reduced price.
Yeah. So immediately, and maybe you and I have talked about this before, actually. So was this anything to do with season 1 of American Horror Story? Or was that a different story that house was based on? Or do you know?
It might be. It might be, actually.
The first season of that show was called Murder House.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it was loosely, I don't know. Again, tell us in the comments. We're not sitting here doing research mid. We're just kind of talking back and forth. So, I mean, if you guys know that, feel free to shout it out in the comments. But that's what it brings to mind to me is, you know, the murder house. And then that family goes in and they're like, yeah, this is a giant, which you said it was a small house, but this is a giant house, really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to tell you why, but it was really cheap.
Yep. And they were told absolutely everything that happened. It was all transparent, but they ignored it all. I think they probably thought, like,
oh, ghosts aren't real.
Ghosts aren't real. This is a cheap house for our family. We're just going to do it.
And I'm a sucker for a deal, too. I would think about it.
Think about it, yeah.
It depends on how reduced the price is, but yeah, maybe.
Right. So George and Kathleen Lutz moved their 3 children into the home and settled in. However, shortly after moving in, the family claims they began experiencing weird things. First, every day at 3 a.m., George would be awakened. Is this a coincidence that it was the exact time of the murders? Then their young daughter got a new friend, an imaginary one.
Yeah.
Just a kid being a kid, right?
That's one that freaks you out.
Yeah, I don't.
Kids with imaginary friends that sometimes seem like, where did you get that idea from?
Yeah.
Of that person. And you've always said supposedly kids are more in tune with those things, more in tune with spirits, ghosts, things like that.
Right.
It's what a lot of people say, at least.
Yeah, I think kids just feel energy a lot deeper.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
So, well, then it gets scarier. They claim they have been levitating in their beds, which, no.
Never happened to me.
Right? And even woke up with welts on their chests. Green slime was said to pour from the ceilings, and weird smells lingered in the home.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of all that stuff. So, I mean, most of the time when you hear or see a ghost story, or you see the shows where they do ghost hunting and things like that, it's not stuff like that. It's like something moves maybe, but green slime, I've never. That sounds a little far-fetched to me, at least, but
yeah, and I feel like that's something tangible, like show somebody
right,
that,
like
you know?
How does it show up and then it's just gone?
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know. We're talking about things that could be potentially supernatural, so I guess you never know.
Yep. They also claim to have heard someone screaming, "Get out!" And knives have moved.
That could just be some mean neighbors, just
standing outside,
just sitting there going, "Oh, this will really get him."
If I start hearing "Get out" in the middle of the night, though, like, that's not okay.
But you know me, if it was me doing it, then I would be laughing after I did it. I couldn't keep a straight face. Right,
which is, I don't know if that's even scarier. Someone saying "Get out" and then laughing.
Oh, true, yeah. Yeah, that's probably true.
So knives are moving on their own, and the family experienced one last night of just complete horror that they wish not to talk about to this day. They packed up, they left after staying only 28 days.
Wow.
So all of that happened in just a month, pretty much. But what really happened here? So George and Kathy took a lie detector test to prove their innocence, and they passed. One of the sons claims to have nightmares to this day and says it ruins his life. Many years later, the famous ghost hunting couple, the Warrens, came to sleep over at the house. So do you remember who the Warrens are?
I do not.
Okay, so we watched that movie, the one about
I think I know. When you said the movie,
do it.
You said the movie. I think I remember. Actually, I didn't know that was them, but I can picture it now. I can't remember much about the movie, but I can kind of remember the couple.
Yeah, they are pretty famous ghost hunters. And out of all of their stuff, the Amityville seems to be one of their biggest actual cases, which
Were
is kind of
they
crazy.
so? Did they have like recorded footage that they did of it? Those ghost hunters?
Yes, so they have claimed to have caught a ghost on camera.
Gotcha.
There is a picture. Do you want to see the picture of it?
Sure.
I have it. And I was researching this case at night. You don't do that.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
Anytime you hear any noise.
Okay. This is...
And she'll post these.
Yeah, I'll post them. That's the picture.
Gotcha.
And then that's who they believe it is.
It's a creepy looking house, too.
Well, it's at night, too, so...
Yeah. Definitely looks abandoned. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty clear picture. I immediately always kind of question things, and I sit here and go, okay, did they have somebody kind of stage that picture? Like, it looks so much like a person that you kind of just go, was it actually a person? Like, did they just have somebody go pose for the picture there, and then...
Right, I mean, that all could be a hoax.
Right. I try to talk myself out of reasons of why it could be real. But if it is real, that's a very clear picture.
Mm-hmm. The picture was taken by paranormal photographer Gene Campbell, and it is a camera set up towards the stairs, and then peeking over the stairway looks like a small face. People wonder if this could be 9-year-old John Defeo, who was the victim in the murder, was the victim of his brother, Ronald. So in the first little piece of this, where we were talking about the murder, the youngest victim, they think this could be the face of.
Which, I mean, paranormal photographer, how cool of a job would that be?
I know, right?
That sounds awesome.
I mean, most of the time I think you're taking pictures of empty rooms, but
yeah,
it still would be really,
and you're
really
probably
cool.
not getting paid much for your work, I'm guessing.
Right.
Not unless you get something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, who knows? But still, sounds like a cool job.
Yeah. I will say this picture is pretty compelling if it's real.
If it's real, yeah.
If this is all real, that picture is freaky.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, back then, a lot of times, the way the cameras were, your eyes would light up like that picture.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it could be a real person, but it is creepy, yeah. It almost, like that eyes almost look like a cat.
It does, yeah. So other people have debunked all of this, saying that the Lutz family was trying to get money from the public. The Lutz former lawyer, William Weber, who basically argued with the family over money issues, came out in 1979 claiming that the three of them came up with the horror story over many bottles of wine. Which, if you're going to come up with that...
The three of them would be the two parents and the lawyer?
Yep.
Okay.
But no other owner of this home has experienced anything out of the ordinary after that.
Yeah.
Which, why would you purchase after all of this? But there's been many people who have.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's people that are naturally curious about it. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are people that want to experience it. There are people that are like, I want to live in the Amityville house. I mean, at some point, those places kind of become a tourist attraction.
Right. I was reading this interview from one guy who had lived there, and he was like, the only thing out of the ordinary is just all the reporters and the people who are coming by. And I'm
leave
like,
me alone.
Yeah, he seemed like a super loner dude. And he was like,
just trying to have my morning coffee.
Right. He was like, I just want to be alone.
Just want to be alone with the ghosts.
Right. So maybe he just wanted to be there. I don't know. So closing thoughts. What are your whole opinion on the story, the ghosties, the murder, everything? So,
I mean, if there's a place that's going to be haunted, I feel like it's going to be something like that, mm-hmm. where it's, something that has a gruesome story, negative energy, like we talked about. Mm-hmm. Those are the places that tend to freak me out too. Like, those are where I tend to get the negative energy, but also get like kind of anxious. We've watched shows where they've gone into old psych wards, which that could be an episode in itself, of us talking about what we, you did a video on it already, of us going to the Gore Museum. I was actually there with you when we went there. So there's a little fun fact for anybody who's been hanging around and watching the channel for this long.
Yep.
But just
which
seeing,
is basically us.
Yeah, us, our families, yeah.
Right.
The Gore Museum, and I want to give them a better shout out, but I don't remember exactly where it was. It might be St. Joseph, might be a little north of St. Joseph.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Around there.
It was really cool and a lot of interesting stuff, and mental health stuff has come a long ways since, really the 1900s, 1920s. But those places freaked me out because of how they thought they were doing good, but they were basically torturing people. They thought they were doing right, but really with what we know now, they weren't. And so any place like that that's got bad energy from like people who have been tortured or been, murdered violently, things like that, I could see it. I mean, I've been in places where I've not felt good energy like we talked about, and that would be for sure one of those places. Some of the things seem a little far-fetched to me. The green slime for sure seemed far-fetched. The welts and stuff like that, they always said on the shows that we've watched, if you actually have physical, like bruises, things like that, like get out.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that's it's a really bad sign. But then for nobody else afterwards to have it happen, I lean towards it just being a really good story made up by some people that were maybe trying to get some money, but I also don't fully want to discount it.
Right.
It very well, if it's going to happen, it's going to be in a place like that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because as I was researching this, which this is going to be weird for me to say, okay? So just brace yourself.
All right.
But I have researched a lot of murder, and this one's horrible.
Right.
It's children, it's bad. But I've researched like people chopping people up in pieces, cannibalism, like a lot worse, but never a story that impacts people as much on the ghost side as this one. So that kind of does make me kind of think,
Right. Yeah.
Not to say this one wasn't bad.
Right.
But
No, it definitely was bad. But yeah, I agree. I've heard some of your cases, and some of your cases are pretty bad. And so yeah, I agree with that. I can imagine with some of the cases living in some of those houses afterwards.
Do you want to watch the movie now?
Kind of, yeah. So to keep in mind, all of this stuff I've said, I've not watched either movie. I haven't watched the older one. I haven't watched the newer one. I just found out that there was a newer one. I do like Ryan Reynolds, so
yeah.
Now I kind of want to watch it.
I will say, I think what the basis of the movie is that everyone, all the perpetrators in this were possessed. So I think they're saying that Ronald Jr. was possessed, killed his family at 3 a.m., which is like one of I think it's during the witching hour type of thing.
I've heard of the witching hour, yeah.
He was possessed, killed his whole family, and then when the Lutz family moved in, they started becoming more possessed. So I think the premise of the movie is that George starts getting to where he's like going to kill his family, and I don't know what happens in the end, because I have seen it. It's just been a long time ago.
Little Paranormal Activity-ish,
right?
Kind of with the possession side of things. Which this is kind of off the topic of the possession, but I just started thinking of this. So you said they were all laid face down. I think either we've watched this on the show or you and I have talked about this, but that usually is a sign that the killer didn't want the family or didn't want the people didn't want to look into their eyes, basically, right?
Yep.
Like they didn't want them to be looking at them when they did it or after they did it.
Kind of a shame thing.
Yeah, like right. So I mean, to me, that makes it a little bit like be somewhat coherent. Like what? Like, yeah, thinking of a possession, and then all of a sudden thinking like whoever possessed him is now all of a sudden like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
I mean, yeah, maybe he did it frenzied and, like you said, moved them because they were all in the same position, face down in their bed. Maybe he was like, you know, I didn't mean to kill them, and then. But what I don't get is he went to work.
Right.
He cleaned up. He did all this stuff.
Was he still possessed when he went to work?
Right.
The thing that possessed him was just like, yep, go have a nice day. Like, when you come home, I'm not going to be possessing you anymore. And then you're going to realize what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of it just doesn't make sense, but it makes for a really good horror story.
It does. The story itself is great. But yeah, now I'm just picturing, I kind of want to see a movie of like the possessed guy going to work that day. Like, I don't know what he did for a job.
A comedy
but like,
about...
he's like a possessed construction worker or something. just sitting there like jackhammering or something. I don't know. I could see that being a good movie.
That would be.
I don't even know what movie that would be like. I think it'd be a hit though.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'll get on that, writing that screenplay.
Yep.
So from funny to leaving you with a cliffhanger that's a little bit ominous, I'll leave you with this closing thought. Do houses carry memories of their former tenants? And if they do, who are you living with?
That's creepy.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Now I want to read that screenplay.
Hi guys, I just wanted to say I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like any of the content for Code 187, please click that subscribe button, that like button, that share button. Help us out, help us grow. You can find us on your favorite podcast platforms. Yeah, check us out on there. Give us some ratings. Tell us what you think. We're also across every social media on Code 187. So we're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think that's it. And of course, YouTube. So please, please, please subscribe if you like our content and spread the word. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.